Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. After working in higher ed for a long time, LaRachelle Samuel Smith got a PhD in educational leadership. Then she teamed up with noted historian Dr. William H. Turner to write Black to the Future, Lessons from Black Wall Street for Community and Economic Prosperity. Now, a lot of people may or may not know that by 1921, Black Wall Street in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, was one of the most prosperous African-American communities in the United States. In May of that year, the entire district was destroyed as a result of racial violence over the attempted rape of a white woman. But this book isn't about the destruction of this community. It's about its success. And LaRachelle, you take it from there.
So interesting. I happened to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a couple of years, and I had never heard of Black Wall Street or the Greenwood district where Black Wall Street is. It's in the north part of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And when I got there, I realized, oh my gosh, this is history I'd never heard about, and I was dropped right in the middle of it. And so that being the case, so often these stories need to be told. However, people often hear about the tragedy behind Black Wall Street, but what they don't hear enough about is what was it that allowed this community to thrive? What were the values and some of the practices that they had together as a community that allowed them to build up such a strong infrastructure with, so much economic impact that's still lasting to today. And so some of those lessons that could be learned from that community is really what I wanted to focus on in this book. And, many other companies had been started around the same time in the late 19th century. So what if Black Wall Street would have been able to thrive? Would they have been just as prosperous as, say, Macy's as a retailer or Shell Oil Company as, working in the gas industry? All of these things were questions that came to my mind, and those were the reasons why I thought, well, let me just put this in a document. Nothing that's long and hard to read. It's a very easy read, but that was the reason for me wanting to do the book now.
The fact that this community grew, that what these people were able to accomplish at that time, not long after slavery, I mean, it's phenomenal. So what did you come up with? It really is. I mean, when you read it, it's like, what? How did that even? It's because whites weren't paying attention. They just assumed that nothing was going to happen there, right? Here's this Black community. What's going to happen there? They're Black. We're white. We're going to prosper. And here this flower grew in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Interesting, because you mentioned about the time period, and it was late 1800s. Many of the founders were born either right at the peak of the Civil War or sometime after that. And so, as you can imagine, in that Reconstruction era, folks were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do next? And it's not often talked about, but yes, many of them did decide to go not north. Oftentimes we hear about those that went to Chicago or Cleveland or those areas, but they went to the Oklahoma Indian Territory. And at that time, the government, just like they do a lot now, offered grant programs, land grant programs. And so one of the founders, O.W. Gurley, he, in his ingenuity and I guess forward thinking, moved away from where he was in the South and went to that area looking for new opportunities. And so from there, it began to be more of a collective effort. So the more of those who had moved to that area looking for opportunity began to work together and buy property. And as of buying property, of course, they had to sustain themselves. So it just kind of was built organically based on a need first to move away from, the adversity that they were faced with into this area of new opportunity, and then work together collaboratively. And so in the book, I talk about the 6 pillars of success that helped with building Black Wall Street. And just quickly, I'll name them for you. So obviously, collaboration. Communication was another one. They built their own communication system through newspapers and things like that. They also believed in ownership. So it wasn't just about going there and working for other people or, doing things that would help other people besides their community grow. It was about their own self-determination. The other value was access to resources. So obviously, the government had programs at that time that helped them. They had their own resourcefulness. So, although they might have been enslaved or descendants of enslaved people, they still had skills that they could build on. So, those resources really helped them. They valued healthcare and well-being. They had a hospital system. They value education, of course, so they taught their children, and they built school systems. And then, of course, some of the other things that came away from it, you can certainly read about it in the book, but that is what I really wanted to lean into, were those 6 pillars of success that helped them to make that community thrive.
Now, how are you using this? Like, I'm reading your synopsis, and I'm going, what are you doing? Like, do you go out and do training sessions? Like, it almost sounds like a handbook for prosperity.
Actually, yes. A handbook, a blueprint to help others. Of course, in this modern day era, we're thinking a lot about AI and, what AI as a technology tool can do. But there's another kind of AI, which is ancestral intelligence, learning from our ancestors in history and using that as a blueprint or a handbook today for our own community building. And a lot of people want to be business owners and entrepreneurs. So this is the kind of history lesson that they can look to and say, oh, if they can do it, then, so can I.
How are you getting the word out, LaRachelle?
Through wonderful people like yourself who are willing to have me on your podcast to talk about it. But in a more formal way, there is a curriculum that has been taken from these lessons. And ultimately, my goal was to share this curriculum with nonprofits, community leaders, perhaps schools, because it really is a history that is inspiring. It's not just about, the horrible things that have happened in our history. I respect that. I think that's a story worth telling, but I wanted to tell a different story for future generations to understand that all communities, when they work together, can really do some great things.
With or without help.
Right.
It can, you know what I mean? Because if you're waiting on, God forbid, our government, state, local, or otherwise, it's like, you know what I mean? These people had nothing. They had no one helping them. They did it themselves.
I am networking with people in the local community to help me get this story and this book, this handbook, in front of the right people. So I ultimately hope to work with universities. Again, as I mentioned, nonprofits. There's a lot of activity in terms of trying to help communities of color become entrepreneurs and business owners. So I really want to network with them as well. But just anyone interested in history, anyone interested in just having somewhere to go and be inspired by stories of the past. And I would be remiss if I did not mention my co-author, Dr. William Turner. He played a huge role in inspiring me. Working beside him was like one of the most rewarding aspects of this journey because he is a renowned author himself. He just recently wrote his memoir, And he was also a protege of Alex Haley of Roots,
Right.
which was back in the 70s, a very popular story that I think just about everybody is familiar with, that told one aspect of Black history, but he brought a lot to this endeavor as far as his scholarship and him being a chronicler of Black Appalachia. You know, he's got a lot of rich experience and just kind of helping me to tell the story in a way that adds validity and strengthens everything that we've talked about in the book.
Okay. LaRachelle Samuel Smith, author of Black to the Future, Lessons from Black Wall Street for Community and Economic Prosperity. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, I thank you, and really appreciate the time that you've taken to learn more about the book and this story.
All right. I wish you the best of luck. Are you going to keep writing, or are you just going to see where this takes you?
Oh, no, I've already got my next book in the works. It's going to be a little more local in my home state of Texas. I'm going to write more about my own family history.
Good for you.
Oh, yeah. It's already shaping up to be a lot of fun, getting to meet family members and people that I never knew I was related to. So it's great.
Exciting but scary, right?
I know. Every book has its own little journey.
An elementary school teacher and mother of three, Jill Coffin has been writing for years. But after she had her second child, she realized she had a very important message to share. And so she's published her first children's book entitled Bean and Monkey.
I've always written. I'm not necessarily a journal writer, but I tend to get my feelings out on paper. And so when my middle daughter was born with Down syndrome, I wrote a ton of things. I wrote poems, I wrote this Bean and Monkey. Goodness, I wrote this when she was 4 and now she's 16.
Oh.
I've actually written a lot of them. If I can get it off the ground, it's actually a series of their adventures together. But this is just the first one. And one day my husband said, "Why do we have all of these saved writings on the computer? Why don't you get them out there? They're good enough to publish." And so he encouraged me to try to get it out there. So I didn't know how it's a niche market, being for families with special needs. And so I was thinking self-publishing, but I didn't have an illustrator. And I happened upon Fulton Books, and because I was researching different avenues, and not only is Fulton open to new writers who have no experience, but you have in-house illustrators. And so I set the submission in, and it was accepted.
Are you happy with the illustrations?
I am very happy with the illustrations. Yes, I am.
That's great. So what's the story with Bean and Monkey?
It's basically from Bean, who is fashioned after Natalie, my oldest daughter. It's from her viewpoint of how being told that her little sister has special needs right when she was born made her worry. Like, what am I going to expect? I thought this is how my life would look like, and now what does it mean? And then it kind of jumps forward a few years, showing that they're literally just like any other pair of sisters. They, play. One of the lines is, we run, we fight, we play, and we chase. Like, together we're busted when we don't obey. It's just, the point of the book is to show that there's nothing to be afraid of. Yes, special needs throws a kink in the chain and things are a little different, but in reality, and I hate the word normal, but I wrote this so that the moms out there who have, children that are diagnosed with any kind of special need, it's just to encourage them that, hey, life is going to look pretty much exactly like you thought. And then it also touches on, some things are different. We go to therapy every day. We do this, we do that. We have special doctor appointments, and Bean is saying she helps monkey through it. So it's not, absolutely typical, but it's just encouraging in that life goes on and life is fun and life is beautiful, regardless of any kind of diagnosis. And it does not specifically state Down syndrome. I wanted to leave it open.
Oh, okay.
For any disability.
What was the most difficult thing for Bean in the book?
Just not knowing what to expect, just being afraid that they're never going to be able to play the way she thought would with her little sister, not knowing what life would look like anymore.
So it was the anticipation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as life went on, she realized this is the best little sister I could ever have, and we're best friends, and this is how our life looks, and I love her very much. It is a very positive, kind of uplifting tale.
That's great. So do you go out and talk about this? You say you have more books that you would like to put out there.
So I know what I want to do. I just don't know how to go about doing it.
What do you want to do?
But so when my Avery was born, the one who's monkey in the book, when she was born, the local Down syndrome network had gone around each hospital and given them baskets, like welcome baskets. And there's calendars and, little notes about local affiliations for groups for parents. But there was nothing, at least back, in 2009, nothing in there that said, hey, congrats. This isn't a bad thing. It was more like, here's your awareness basket. To me, it felt very intimidating. It was a little overwhelming, a little intimidating. I thought, wait a minute, I have to get involved in all the stuff that I know nothing about. And I hope I don't sound ignorant. I just honestly I had been exposed to the special needs world up until that point. And so what I want in this basket of information that the hospitals give these moms is something that just says, it's okay. This baby's amazing. Something for older siblings to be able to hold on to, that this is an okay thing. This is good.
Oh, well, do you reach out to the organization that put those baskets together, or to the local hospital and say, I'm a local author, I'm right here?
That's what I'm thinking I want to do. I'm also a member of the Down Syndrome Congress, and every year they have a huge convention, and I mean, it fills up an entire, like this year it was at the Gaylord Omni Hotel in Dallas, and it filled up the entire thing. I would love to be able to take my books and be a vendor there. And just show, all the families, hey, here's a book. There aren't very many, children's books out there about special needs. There are some, but not very many. And I'd love to give them an opportunity to get a book that relates to their family.
Well, Jill, I think you can do that.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, that is a great idea. And then how many books do you think you have?
I have 5 right now.
Great. So it would be nice if you could get this one off the ground and then follow it up.
Right, okay. Right.
Jill Coffin, author of Bean and Monkey. Thanks so much for talking with me.
Sure, thanks for calling.
Recently retired as a nursing home administrator, Zandra Debnam Lee finally found the time to publish The Red Truck, Memories of a Country Girl. Now, how long ago did you write this, Zandra?
I wrote this book 20 years ago, and I got one rejection after the other. And after a while, you just give up. And then last year, I said, let me just try it again. And I was Googling different publishing companies, and I saw Page Publishing. And what drew me to them was their logo, the tree. And I looked at it and I said, well, that's like the tree of life. And I just sent it to them. I didn't send it to anyone else. And a couple of months later, they called me back and said that they really liked my manuscript and they wanted to help me publish my book.
So, what's it about?
Basically, I'm a country girl. I grew up in the rural part of North Carolina. My grandfather and my father both were farmers. And it just talks about growing up in the rural part of the country, the different things that you face being the child of a farmer, and also trying to grow and develop and create your own personality. Um, so, I mean, it's very interesting. I think that any type of whether you're a teenager or adult, whether you live in the city or from an urban or from a rural area.
Why the red truck? What's going on with the red truck?
Well, my father, he drove an old red truck, and it wasn't like the trucks today that have the 4 doors. So it was like we were all piled in the front of the red truck and drive to where the field was that we were going to work in for that day. And so that really impressed me that, we were piling that old red truck and we didn't have a radio, but it was kind of like it was our family bonding time. So that's why I chose the red truck, memories of a country girl.
Okay. Did this book come from a diary?
Well, it started, I've always loved writing. And when I was in middle school, I started a diary. So basically, it started out as a diary. I wanted to kind of put in writing my most memorable childhood memories. And I also, even though I have 3 sons, even though I would tell my sons about how it was growing up in the country, it was kind of like when you verbalize things, it get lost. So I felt like if I put it in writing, then I could share that writing with my children. So it started out basically as memories or historical memories that I wanted to share with my 3 sons. So it was like the most memorable childhood memories or teenage memories, that I had. One story that I'm really proud of is when I was arrested for being a part of a boycott at my high school. This senior student, I was a freshman at the time, he was suspended for school for what they said was a threat against the janitor. And all of the Black students felt that it was racial and that it was unfair because in our school, in the hallways, they had those tall, big radiators that you could sit on. And a lot of the upperclassmen, they would sit on those radiators in between classes. And apparently, all the kids did it. And this particular day, the janitor had asked the student to not sit on the radiator. And he said, I'll sit on your head. And in my book, I did say that that was not appropriate because I was always raised to respect your elders. So all he had to do was just get off the radiator and go to class. But the janitor went to the principal and told the principal what he said, and they suspended him, and he was a senior, saying that he threatened the janitor. So with them suspending him, that meant that he would not be able to take his final exams for his senior classes, and basically he would fail his senior class. And back then, I don't really think they had summer school where he could have went to summer school. So that meant he would have to repeat the entire senior year the following year. And so we just felt that that was unfair. Like, yes, he needed to be punished, but, maybe there was other options that the principal could have considered. And so we boycotted that. So basically it was a walkout. All the Black students walked out, and we were going to walk to the school board, the superintendent office, and ask them to please reconsider the principal's decision. And long story short, they said that we were trespassing on the school, and if we didn't leave, that we would be arrested. So those of us who did not leave the school grounds, we were arrested. We were charged with trespassing, and I can't recall. It was two things that they charged us with. And so all of the parents of the students that were arrested, we got an NAACP lawyer. His name was Mr. Chamberlain, and he represented all of us as a group. And all of our charges were dismissed. We did not have a police record because they did fingerprint us. They took mug shots, all the works. And then the school board did decide to let this student go back to school so that he could finish his senior year. So we just felt that it was a win-win situation.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that with me. Was it difficult for you growing up Black in the 60s, 70s?
Yes, I was born in 56. It was difficult. It was still a lot of segregation. Like the white kids would sit on one side of the cafeteria and the Black kids would sit on another side. Not because we had to, it's because we internally kind of segregated ourselves. It's kind of like birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it was a comfort level for everybody. And then I would say by my senior year, I saw more intermingle, like, more Black and white kids sitting together, eating lunch together.
Yeah.
I think the comfort level started opening up and people realized that we're the same.
Right.
We still have the same issues as teenagers.
That's very interesting. Are you talking about your book?
Well, right now, I did get on Facebook, and I have family members who have on Facebook have asked, people, to support their sister's book. And so I do plan on maybe sending flyers to local churches. And I know that I've thought about putting articles in maybe the local newspapers where you can advertise different marketing. And so those are some things that I have thought of, as well as maybe I've talked to the library about maybe having like a book signing. And so those are some things that I've thought of, but I know that Page Publishing, they're assisting me with the marketing aspect as well, just like what we're doing today.
That's great, Zandra. That's great. You're doing all the right stuff. Are you going to keep writing, do you think?
Yes, I think I am going to keep writing. People who have read my book said they thoroughly enjoyed it, and they have asked me to not let that be the first and last book. So I am considering another book. I just need to, when you have multiple ideas, but you want to pin it down to what you think will be the most interesting for the audience that will want to read. And so that's where I am now, is trying to narrow it down to what subject or topic I really would like to write about next.
Great. Zandra Debnam Lee, author of The Red Truck, Memories of a Country Girl. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having this discussion with me.
Artist, author, and future small business owner Mackenzie Lee's just getting started. And no one's more surprised than you are, right? That you had it in you to write a children's book. And now you've published Princess Olivia and Her Friends.
Well, the thing is, I didn't know I could write a book. So My daughter, which she is my inspiration, she's now 13. And her 10th birthday was coming up. Of course, I was going to buy her stuff, but I wanted to make something because we both do art together. I wanted to do something handmade and something that we used to do together when she was smaller. We would go back and forth, and it would be silly and goofy. There wasn't really a concept. So for her 10th birthday, I started writing on like a solid concept to gift to her. And then at the end, it took me a couple tries. At the end, I'm like, holy moly, I think I just wrote a book. And then from that, I went to and made illustrations to fit each scene or phrase. And then I shocked myself. I'm like, oh, I think I just wrote an entire book. And so I was in a church community. I volunteered for the kids ministry and Wednesday's middle school youth group. So they had this baptism gathering. So we got to meet a lot of people, and I brought it with me. And so if I'm sitting around, I could work on the illustration. And I met someone that actually illustrates for a successful publisher for children's book. So he illustrates for that author. And I pulled it out. I'm like, don't judge. The drawing's not finished. It's a rough draft. But I would like your opinion. And I showed him, and he's like, you wrote this? I said, yeah. He goes, you drew these too? I said, yeah. And then he asked me again. I'm like, please tell me because you're making me nervous. He goes, these are great. And I can't believe that you actually drew and illustrated a book. And he gave me the email to the author he works with. And we met for coffee. I brought it, the illustration finished, and he was impressed too. And then it took maybe a year and a half to build the confidence to reach out to 4 different publishing companies, and 3 of them reached back. I heard all the benefits that they provide and all this, and Page Publishing screened my name. So I have a passion of art since I was a little girl. My aunt was an artist. She painted this cabin scenery and gifted it to my grandmother on the back of a frying pan. Yeah. So she's an artist. She does oil paints. And then me and my brother would make up our own comic books. Obviously, I'll illustrate, and he's the writer in the family. So I was always been an artsy, hands-on crafts, anything. I like to say, make the impossible possible. And I was like, that's not possible. That won't work. And I'm like, hold on, let me play around with this, and then I'll make it work. So my daughter's name is Olivia, Alivia. And at that age, I was making dinner. I was like, Olivia, come. She goes, Mama, my name is not Olivia, it's Princess Sparkles. So that's so the story is inspired and something that we would do at bedtime. So it's my daughter's name.
So tell me about the story.
So she was like in Head Start, pre-K. And because I'm goofy and silly and make whatever, we were goofy together. Now, mind you, she's 3-4 years old. And she would come home and she's like, oh, I don't think they like me. I'm like, why? She goes, they don't like the way I laugh. And I'm like, but I love your laugh, you know? And she goes, Mom, you're supposed to say that. And I'm like, no, because you're the only one that thinks I'm funny. So I need you to laugh. So, and when I would have her, being polite in mannerism, being kind to others, I would also guide her. If someone's being mean to you at school, please let me know, and I'll address the teacher, and not to react or hit back or do anything violent. So I was really keen on her like being nice to others, even if others weren't. So when we made the story, she wanted this long children's book, and I'm like, I just want you to tuck you in so I could just have some mommy time and relax, you know. So I was like, how about we make up a story? And of course, she was Princess Olivia. It was her. And then it was about being kind and making a bunch of friends, because at pre-K, her friends were making fun of the way she laughs and all that stuff. So in this story, she made a bunch of friends and she had fun with all her friends. And then to do something homemade for her 10th birthday, that's when it was created.
Okay, so what kind of friends does she meet along the way?
She lives in this big castle. It's short and sweet, and she lives there by herself. So she one day she made a wish. She prayed to her fairy godmother, and she wants some friends to play with. And a fairy godmother appears right in front of her. Hello, sweet princess. I'm your fairy godmother. I hear you have an important wish. And she goes, yes, I would love to have lots of friends to play with. And the fairy godmother had one rule for this to come true. And she goes, what is it? I'll do anything. I promise. She goes, you have to love each and every one, even if one is not. You love each and every one just the same. So it goes back to being bullied and whatnot and still being kind to that person. And then she goes, oh, I see it in your heart, so I'll grant you this wish. She goes to bed. She wakes up the next morning. She looks outside her castle, her bedroom window, and then there's a bunch of children outside waving, waiting to greet her. Then they go to play jump rope, and then they go swimming, and then she has the time of her life.
That's great. Are you going to keep writing, Mackenzie?
I am. I have two books that just got approved. One, I have a little Frenchie. So there's the second one will be the little Frenchie with a big personality that learns karate on his daily walk downtown. Yeah, it's really cute. And then there's a second one with Princess Olivia's first tea party, where she asked her fairy godmother to help host it for all her friends to enjoy. So there's two more.
Okay. How are you telling people? Are you out reading this book to little kids anywhere?
I have, and I had a book opening. So that went really well. We had a princess theme at a local cafe. I'm about to. I was heading to Newburyport to walk there's a boardwalk near the water. I'm going to bring my book and go to all the small. They have small little business stores and whatnot. So I even brought it to the hospital gift shop to see if they want to sell it in their stores. So I've been slowly but surely advertising the book.
Mackenzie, you're doing great. You're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. You're doing a great job.
It's hard. It's not easy.
It isn't easy, but you're really getting behind your book, and that's what it takes. All right. You are Mackenzie Lee, author of Princess Olivia and Her Friends. Thank you so much.
Right. You're very welcome.
A native of Arizona, Paul Winger was an active union man on the state, local, and national level before a freak accident forever changed his life. But it did not dampen his enthusiasm for encouraging people to do the right thing for their country. The name of his book, Paradigm Revolution, Sign Me Up. Tell me about this life-altering experience, Paul.
Well, in 2003, I went back to being a letter carrier, mostly to get away from the 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I was driving to work on, believe it or not, Halloween. This is my trick or treat. I was rear-ended by some lady and she skipped town. Yeah. I was sitting at a red light. She slammed into me right at two pretty busy roads. Instant retirement.
Oh, how old were you?
47. I've been in a wheelchair since.
Oh my gosh, Paul, I am so sorry.
Well, that's the way it is. I guess that's life.
So did you have kids or?
Oh yeah, I got 3 kids. They're all grown out, living their lives. And I got 8 grandkids.
Oh God, I'm so sorry. So is that when you started writing?
Well, you sit here and I've always liked to read. And I've got a couple of books and couple more, and I got books all over the place here now. So I figured, well, you know something, I better start writing because I always did like political. I like history. So put the two together, and we're not where we should be. We're not doing anything we should be doing. I started writing, and I said, oh, my God, no one's ever going to get this book. It's too thick. So I split it into 2 books. So just like you, me, everybody, as soon as you get up, you got to know what you have to deal with.
Right.
So I think the founding fathers had to know what they got to deal with. And if you take the best qualities of people, that's where I came up with the Big 5. Believe it or not, I came up with that in 92.
And in your book, you talk about the B5.
Big 5, here they come. Honesty, truth, compassion, love, and responsibility. And I had it down to 3, but truth and love are so important.
Yeah.
They got to stand by themselves. I just list a whole bunch of complaints, chapter after chapter, that all of us have, but we shouldn't. People really need to get together because we, the people, is you. And you are the champion. That's the American experiment that we've lost contact with that. You're the champion. I got this from a Thomas Jefferson letter, self-determination. That was the whole Revolutionary War. Let me whip a question onto you, okay? And this is in the book too. Every parent can attest to this. I've been in 40 out of 50 states, and everybody I've seen, 100%, they don't like being lied to. Here it comes. Why is that unacceptable from a 3-year-old and fully acceptable from a full-grown adult?
So we've already established that you're talking about the Big 5: honesty, truth, compassion, love, and responsibility. And then you ask, why aren't the Big 5 included in our Constitution? So is this an essay on the current state of affairs?
Yeah.
In our country? Is that what you're talking about right now? Because you say we have to work for freedom. It doesn't come easy. It's always at a high price.
That's right.
Okay.
It's always a high price.
All right. So is this an essay on what we should be doing?
No, I go through the Constitution.
You go through the Constitution. Give me an example.
Attorneys General.
Okay.
How come we elect attorneys generals in 43 out of the 50 states, but we don't at the national level? Almost everybody's complaining about this attorney general and that attorney general, and you know, the last 2 we have, the one Bondi and Garland, empty shirts. That's all they are. Just they're no good. They're no good.
Okay, so you think we should change that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else?
Supreme Court ain't Supreme Court. That's a king's court. I bet you've held up a dog treat. You'd have at least 6 jumping up and down going, gimme, gimme, gimme.
Okay. What else?
Article 1, Section 2, the very first thing, it talks about what do you have to be in a congressional representative, a CD, in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
United States citizen for 7 years. Really? 7 years, United States citizen. Do you know one congressional district in the entire country where you can be a citizen of that congressional district but not the country?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There you go. There you go. How does Marjorie Taylor Greene move into her congressional district just for the purpose of running for Congress, and people don't care anymore?
Well,
He says, whatever name's out there, fine.
they haven't cared for a long time. A long time.
You're right.
I mean, come on.
You're right.
People were outraged in New York when Hillary Clinton moved from Arkansas to New York because she wanted to run for Congress from New York.
And she was in compliance.
So you just mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has She has some big fans out there, just like President Trump has big fans out there. So the problem is that I don't think we're all seeing things the same way. That's what it feels like.
I'm in agreement.
You know, I mean, if we all saw things the same way, I don't think they'd be the way they are right now.
Exactly. Well, it'd be pretty boring too.
Would it be boring? I'd like a little boredom would feel really good right now. Okay,
Yeah.
So this is basically your thoughts on what's happening right now in regards to freedom, liberty, democracy, equal rights. You're saying only we the people can fix what's wrong, and that's vote them out. But what do we do about the people who don't want to vote out? I mean, are they going to try to have a constitutional convention to see if Trump can stay in office, to see if they can change the Constitution?
You know, for one thing, that ain't going to pass. They got to be able to call for a constitutional convention, and you need 2/3 of the states. That's Article 5. Let me tell you this. Before I even went into first grade, I used to love to walk out into the desert. Boy, did I get into a lot of trouble as a little kid doing that. But I was told, hey, if you're going to keep doing that, you got the 3 threes. Okay, what's the 3 threes? Well, if you don't have enough air to breathe, you die in 3 minutes. You don't have water to drink, you die in 3 days. You don't have food, you die in 3 weeks. That's the 3 threes.
Okay.
So that's our Constitution. It covers every bit of that. People say, well, you know, it's the law. Well, who writes the laws? Politics. And it has to do with the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the food you eat. If you don't handle this right, this is the big experiment. We, the people, can govern ourselves. That's why we had a Revolutionary War. You got to be able to sort through some of the stuff like, well, that sounded really good, but and it gained, you know, taxes and things like that. Oh, that sounds really good, but that really wasn't. That was just a line to gain support. That wasn't the whole purpose. The whole purpose was self-determination. We're smart enough. Well, we're kind of losing that.
So in book 1, you say, why would we launch an infant country without including the Big Five?
That's right.
You say we've amended our Constitution 27 times without including the Big Five, and we can fix this.
We can fix this. You know, people just need somebody to tell them. And once they start thinking in that direction, you can't stop. It's just stuck there all the time.
Well, you asked 2 important questions. What life do you want to live, and what country do you want to live in? Stand up for humanity, stand up for yourself. And they're good questions, Paul.
Pretty good questions.
Pretty good questions, Paul Winger. Author of Paradigm Revolution, Sign Me Up.
That's right.
Marsha Albertson says she was compelled to write. She's done plenty of business writing as an executive assistant, and then she wound up caring for her mother and collecting stories about her life. And now she's written Reasons to Smile. What a beautiful tribute to your mom, Marsha.
I never wrote anything of this magnitude before. And when I lost my mother, I wanted to do something to honor her and to also show who she was in terms of her faith. And so I started, it's kind of a funny story. I told my husband, I'm going to make greeting cards, but I'm going to make them in a way that is different than just, happy birthday and even, encouragement stuff. I wanted something that was more along the lines of, have you smiled today? Or how are you, those kinds of things, kind of encouragement cards with Bible verses and those sorts of things on them. And I have a little bit of a artistic flair. And so I love creating things and designing things. And I'm not a graphics artist by any means, but I can use PowerPoint just as good as anybody. And if the clip art is good, I can put it together. And so I started designing all of these little cards and stuff, but I just couldn't, it just didn't seem to come together just right. I don't know. I couldn't make total sense of how I was going to do this and what I was going to do with it and how, if I did it, how would I market it? And so it just didn't feel like it was 100% complete in my mind about moving forward with it. And one night I went to bed and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was like I just had this feeling, and I know it was a prompting of the Lord. He just told me, I want you to write. I just want you to, put the cards aside and write a book. I want you to write this book. And honestly, I was never really much of a reader even. I kind of thought it was a little bit humorous because I probably have I faked my way all through school with book reports. I had it down to a science. I knew how to read just what I needed to read in order to get a good grade on my book report. So reading was not my thing. And when I felt like I was supposed to write, I thought, well, and although my husband, my friends, a lot of people had me write little things for them, letters and, recommendations. They always wanted me to write things and for them, which I did. So they kept telling me for years, you need to write a book. I thought, well, what am I going to write a book about that? I mean, I don't have anything to write about. And then here we go. So, and honestly, it only took me about maybe 3.5 months to write the book. And I know it's because it was what I was supposed to do. It was to honor my mom and my newfound relationship with her. And I'll qualify that by saying that we never had any falling out or anything. I just learned, after taking care of her, I learned so much more about her. And so my relationship, by being newfound, what I mean by that is she was more to me than my mother by that point. She was a strong woman of faith, deeply rooted in her relationship with God. And so she was that to me, and she was a friend to me. So she was more than my mother. And our relationship had kind of graduated to a different level, if you will, something deeper. And so, yeah, that's how it happened.
So this is a book of short stories?
Kind of. They're little snippets, I call it memoirs because they're definitely real life experiences that happened in my mother's life. I tried to kind of put it on a timeline, and I just took like little snippets of things that I knew happened and put them together in a book and tried to kind of categorize it as, I think I started at the beginning of her life, and then I went through when she got married and started having a family, and then when she and my father became, empty nesters, and what happened at that point in her life, and then towards the end of her life. So I kind of tried to categorize it and then capture experiences or little stories throughout each of those periods of time and put those together in the book. And that's kind of how it came to be.
Is there a particular story that stands out for you?
Well, all of it is so important because it really describes who she was from a faith aspect. Her faith really determined how she got through each and every thing that happened in her life. I mean, she had the good, the bad, and the ordinary. She always kind of went at life from the aspect that what you put into something is what you get out of it. So I remember one time and this was just one time, there were many, many times when she taught us as kids that if something goes wrong and someone says something or does something to hurt your feelings or, even betray you, if that person comes back to you and asks for forgiveness, then forgiveness is never a choice. Forgiveness is something that you do because someone cared enough to ask for your forgiveness. So that was, to me, very pivotal in my life because I never looked at situations. I guess they didn't have to be final endings, whenever something happened, and I was betrayed or hurt, and we've all had those. This is my second marriage, so my first marriage was very, there were lots of times when I was betrayed, and but my first husband, and I have a great relationship now. And whoever would have thought that? And I think a lot of that is because of what my mother instilled in me, and how she taught us those traits that are so important, and they shape you into who you become later in life. And how you look at life is much determined by the attitudes that you take on as a child. So those are the good things. I guess those are more feelings and not so much experiences. Good experiences that we had as kids were just, she was always there. I mean, no matter what we needed at any stage in our life, she was always there and met everything that we needed. We laughed a lot. She looked at life with lots of levity. But she could be very serious too. She was very good at meeting other people's needs. That's in my book. I talked about how if she had $2 and she had $1 and you needed two, she'd give you the one she had and then find a way to get the other one. That's just how she was. And she was just really good at helping people. So coming to the end of her life where she needed to rely on other people to help her was very difficult, because she was so much a giver. Being on the taking end is not something that comes easy. So that was a challenge.
Why the title Reasons to Smile?
Because we live in a day and age where there's so few reasons to smile. There's so many people don't have hope. They don't know how to find hope. And my mother's whole reason to smile was deeply rooted in her soul, because she knew the Lord, because God and her relationship with Jesus was so important to her. And so no matter how bad things got, and she had some issues, some things that happened in her life that were quite painful, but she always found a way. And that's the first thing she ever noticed in people, was their smile. It's really funny, but she always used to say, I look at people, and some people just look at their face, they look at their eyes, they look at their, but I look at their smile, because I think I can tell a lot about a person by how they smile. So, that's just how she was. And so no matter what was going on, she always could find some reason to see the positive side of things and to make her smile.
You work at a church.
I do.
What a great place to tell people about this book.
Yes, it is. I really feel like this book was given to me, well, for two reasons, really. First, my mother spent her whole life trying to show the love of Jesus through her life. So I feel like she can still do that in her death through this book. So it's kind of my way of sharing her light and witnessing to the world. In a way, it's kind of my ministry and my way of showing people what life can be like, and how much, there are so many reasons for you to find hope and to have reasons to be happy and to smile, to find the joy out there, even when things are difficult. That's kind of but everybody at the church knows, because that was one of the things that when I interviewed for the job, they asked, why are you going back to work now? And I just, told my personal story why I was going back, but I had also mentioned that I hadn't been working for a while, and during that time I had written a book. In fact, I've written this one, and I have another one that's at the publisher as well, called At the Well. And it's when Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well. Okay. So it's a story of my life. Oh. So it was much harder to write because you really end up, standing in the middle of a road with no clothes on. but it was necessary, and it was what I was supposed to do. So I have that book, and I have one more, and I don't know if I'm going to have anything after that yet.
Well, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen.
That's right.
All right.
Exactly.
Marsha Albertson, author of Reasons to Smile. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate chatting with you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.